Hey, Leon, welcome to the Hidden White podcast. Great to have you here today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. You've had a bit of a whirlwind tour around the world in the last decade,
I have indeed.
but there's a bit of a story before that, which I'm quite fascinated by, because you haven't always done what you've done. You've published books now. You've got a TV series, The Kindness Diaries, but before all that, you were a broker in London. Is that right?
I was indeed. I was a broker in the city, and
Yeah.
on the outside, I had everything you could ever want, but that was hiding a lot of pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Talk to us about that because I think that's a common story in the world today.
Sure. So, look, I thought that the way to happiness, obviously, this is somewhat of a cliche, right? But it just is my
Right.
story as well. That the
Yeah.
way to happiness was through being successful, making as much money as I could make, and just finding my way through success.
Hmm.
And it worked for a little bit, but then it kind of stopped working. Unfortunately for me, it stopped working pretty early. And
At what
I
age?
was
When do you mean it stopped working?
so I fully quit my job when I was 28.
Okay.
So I fully moved into a totally new direction at the age of 28. And I'd been doing it since I'd left college for a few years.
Yeah.
And it was just something that I felt very depressed. I felt very anxious. I didn't really feel like I had a sense of purpose. I certainly felt like I was living somebody else's life. And I stumbled across the movie The Motorcycle Diaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a romanticized version of Che Guevara traveling around South America, relying on kindness. And there was something profound about that movie that touched me in a very beautiful way. And it was really a tipping point because after I watched that movie, I kind of made the decision to quit my job and to start traveling around the world, relying on the kindness of strangers. The first trip I ever did was I went from Times Square in New York to the Hollywood
Mm.
sign, relying on kindness. You couldn't give me money. You could only give me generosity and connection. And believe it or not, even though everyone thought I wouldn't be able to do it, myself included, I actually managed to cross America on kindness.
Yeah.
And from then on, I kind of just started doing more crazy adventures.
Yeah. Right. I want to delve into some of these adventures because they sound fairly exciting, and I'm sure you have plenty of good experiences throughout all that. Um, what was the tipping point for you at 28 to go, this isn't the right direction for me?
The actual tipping point was the movie, but prior to that,
Right.
I remember walking into work, and every day I'd walk into work, and the best day of my day would be the walk into work because I knew that the moment I arrived at work, I was going to be doing something I really did not want to do, and it
Right.
didn't fulfill me, and I didn't wasn't inspired by it, and I didn't enjoy it. And like I said, there was a lot of depression going on. There was overeating. There was everything that people can relate to, I would imagine, if they
Mm.
have not been in a good place. And I would pretty much imagine that every single listener has at some point in their life not been in a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, you found it at an earlier age, I suppose. Have you always been highly ambitious and driven, like a self-starter, or would you relate to that yourself?
It's interesting. I have two parts of my personality. One is I'm definitely a self-starter and motivated, and
Mm.
the other is I'm just lazy. So I have to wait until I get into the self-starter zone to do anything. But when I do actually get to that place, nothing can stop me.
Right.
But currently, I've got to admit, I'm in lazy mode. So I'm sorry to have to
Lazy
share that
mode.
with the world.
Um, so yeah, I mean, the life that we sort of lead from a young age, we seem to be educated or guided to, working hard, making money, buying the house, all the stuff that we think we should do to end up with a higher level of happiness. And that's the path that you went through, and you got to a point where you weren't quite happy and you were even depressed. Do you think that's a changed narrative now? Like, is that something that you'd talk differently to someone who's at a younger age, at 20, maybe looking to understand the meaning of life?
I would say ideally find something you're passionate about and that makes you happy and that makes you materialistic wealth, right?
Yeah.
Because look, materialism is important in the world we live in, but if you are just chasing materialism and you are not feeling what's going on inside, not feeling, how do I say this? Not feeling contented, not feeling inspired, then it's just not going to work. It's only a matter of time, but before it all falls down,
Hmm.
before you're
Yeah.
using things to stop yourself from having, mental health issues, et cetera, et cetera. And again, things that people can relate to. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah. So how do we get to create a more meaningful life? Because obviously that's the journey you've since gone on to create a more meaningful life. But I guess that's very subjective to the individual, right? So
I would say courage and heart. What do I mean by that?
yeah,
Courage to follow your heart.
yeah,
I talk for myself. I had a desire to see the world, to connect with the world, to have adventures. That was what my heart wanted to do.
hmm.
But for years, I didn't have the courage to do that.
Right.
So my awareness was, okay, this is what you want to do, but my courage wasn't there.
Hmm.
So when you have both of those two things at the same time, happening at the same time, then you can take action.
Yeah. So in your heart, you had this desire to connect with people, see different cultures, travel the world. Was that always carried with you up until that time you watched that documentary, Motorcycle Diaries?
Pretty much, it was always there, kind of latent a little bit. The movie opened myself up to the awareness, so that was what I wanted. But I knew that I didn't want to sit behind a desk.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do beyond that. And the movie opened up the awareness and gave me the courage to act on it.
There was really a trigger for that awareness. Did you have a level of awareness around this in the lead up to that, or was it subsided because you were just in work mode and life mode and doing?
I had some awareness. Obviously, I had awareness that I was not happy
Yeah.
internally, and I had an awareness that I wasn't happy doing what I was doing.
Hmm.
I didn't have the courage to make a change, and I didn't know exactly what that change needed to be until I watched the movie.
What an amazing movie, hey?
Oh, great movie. You should
Life
watch it.
changing for you.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
I guess where I'm going with this is how do we get people to connect with that heart story, because I think everyone's got this inner desire that connects them more directly to their passions that will allow them to live more meaningful life. But a lot of people aren't connected to that. It sounds like you had some level of awareness there, and obviously the movie triggered that even further to then give you enough courage to take action in that direction. But I find a lot of people don't even know what that is for them.
I get that. And I would say we have a lot of things going on the outside, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, news, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that
Mm.
we forget the voices from the inside.
Yeah.
And one of the most beautiful ways, simple ways to do this, to get into that space where you hear the inner voices, right, is to go into nature. And when you go into nature, there's an understanding of kind of our oneness with everything. There
Mm.
is even if it's fleeting, it doesn't matter because the moment you have that connection, it stays with you. And I talk for myself. So I would say connecting internally as much as possible, whether that's reading a book, whether that's going into nature, whether that's listening to a podcast, something that takes your gaze from the external to the internal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. I just had a chat with another bloke about this as well, and that was exactly the reference he made. Is that we're so distracted and overwhelmed by everything else that's going on, and usually future related, which builds up our anxiety and stress. But it removes us more and more from this ability to connect within and really listen to the heart to what it truly wants. So you're saying by going into nature, that's a really good opportunity to make that connection.
Yes, meditating, books, connecting with like-minded people that are on the journey as well, all these things.
It's a sense of slowing down and becoming more present with the moment. What meditation practice do you do?
So I've actually been meditating every day for 15 years. However, there was a period of about a year and a half where I stopped, but I started again.
Was that prior
And
to you started meditating prior to going on this journey and leaving your
no, no, it was
no?
after. It
After.
was
Okay.
after. Yeah. I went, had a journey with some interesting chap in India. I followed him for 2 weeks. He took away my money. He took away my passport, my computer, everything. All I had was one backpack, and I had to follow him through India. And after doing that, because that in itself was one big meditation, he said to me words that I will never forget. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
Go for it.
Okay. He said, if you don't meditate, you're fucked. And that there was something about that one sentence that was like, oh, so I started meditating. It was weird because he told me before to meditate and I never did. But
Mm.
that one sentence stuck with me. And
Just
I've always
yeah,
thought about
gotcha.
writing a book called If You Don't Meditate, You're Fucked. But
I
I
like
haven't.
that.
Yeah.
Next
It's a
one.
good one, right?
You've written a few
Yeah.
books now, right? You've written
Yes, I
four
have. I
books,
have. Yeah, I've actually written 6 books.
six books. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been
Which
an
which book
interesting
would
journey.
you say to for the if someone hasn't read your book or work before, which book would you ask them to pick up first?
I would say probably read the Kindness Diaries.
Yeah.
That's about my story where I took the yellow motorbike and circumnavigated the world relying on kindness. And
Yeah.
I think it's also my personal story, kind of a memoir as well to some degree. But I think that's the best one.
A good place to start. The kind of stories. I'll
Yeah.
stick that in the show notes. Going back to meditation. So following this guy through India, don't meditate, you're fucked. And suddenly you're meditating. Um, I love the idea of meditation, but it's one of the hardest practices I've had to work at to develop. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. How did it start for you and what did it look like?
So, he would just say to me, meditate for 20 minutes and just try to the best of your ability to empty your thoughts. So don't say a mantra. Don't do anything except try to empty your thoughts. And if a thought comes in, just let it go. So that's what I try to do. Now, obviously, there are many different ways. Currently, the way I'm doing it is through guided meditation. So every day, I have a couple of guided meditations that get me into a space which I find to be more profound than the other one. But maybe that's because I wasn't doing the other one as I should. Like if you were having a conversation with a guru, he would most probably say that the best form of meditation is simply to empty your mind, and that doing a meditation with guided meditation isn't as profound as that. I get that, but I'm not a guru. So basically, I do it currently with guided meditation.
Yeah, and that works for you. And you said you stopped for a period there for a year and a half or so.
I did.
What was the reason there?
I don't know. I'm very disciplined,
Yeah.
and I kept on going for it was about 13 years, and then just one day, I didn't do it, and it snowballed. One day became 1.5 years.
Mm, mm.
You would think, well, just do it the next day. But because I hadn't done it once, I was like, well, if I didn't do it yesterday, I'm not going to do it today. And then that just kept on going.
Yeah. Unconscious mind tips in there and tells you a story. It's interesting
Yeah.
that when any practice really, if you miss one day, it's not so bad, but if you miss 2 days, it can snowball pretty quickly to missing a lot of days. Whether that's for a good
Exactly.
practice or a not good practice, right? It seems to work that way. So courage to pack up your work and just go on this adventure. What was going through your head in all that? Like, what was giving you what was giving you the courage to make that bold
So
move?
it's a great question. So honestly, the answer to that was emotional pain. So I felt like I was in such a dark emotional place that I had no choice. So you could argue, in fact, I didn't have courage, it was necessity. But basically, what happened was I just felt so bad continuing to live this life I didn't want to live that I knew that I had to do something different or it was going to end pretty badly. So I had a binary choice: either stay here and destroy your life or do something different. So I decided to do something different. And the pain had to be so great for me to even do that. It's not like a small little amount of emotional pain. And then I was like, oh, all right, then I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'm going to go and travel around the world relying on kindness. No, it took a lot more than that.
Yeah, yeah. So that pain was really, well, the acknowledgement, I guess, of where you didn't want to be in the future was impacting you quite heavily to make you go, you know what, this has got to change. A lot of people get to that spot, right? Like it's what they call rock bottom sometimes, or would you refer to it as that? Or
It could be rock bottom. I mean, was there further down to go? Yes. There's always somewhere lower to go unless you find a way to I don't want to use the word fix, but unless you find a way to fix things, there's always somewhere lower to go.
yeah, it's
You just have to
interesting.
turn on the news to see how low people can go.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Which is why I don't turn it on. But yeah, I find that some people can, go quite low, and they, and that's, I guess, to everyone's different experience, different, but like rock bottom, like their lowest point, which gives them enough courage to make some change. Whereas other people sort of just go up and down a little bit. Did you find in life that you are quite low at times and then quite high at times? Like, did you have that extreme?
Sure. It's so interesting. Actually, the healthier I got, let's say, emotionally healthier I got, the higher the extremes. So I would be, I don't know, traveling to Nepal. And the first spiritual experience that I was conscious of, I saw this beautiful sunset in the Himalayas. And I was up here. And then when I came back, I fell off a cliff. And the distance between the high and the low was getting more and more. And it was
Right.
getting more and more painful.
Yeah.
And that was
Interesting.
a tough one. I would
Mm.
always say to my therapist, I'd be like, you know, I've experienced what it feels like to be on the mountaintop, literally and figuratively, and I've also experienced what it's like to be at the lowest point, and
Mm.
the distance in between is just hell.
Yeah. Interesting how that works, huh?
Yeah.
Do you find with that extreme difference that it's easier to go from one to the next? Like it's easier to then go, you know what, I can get back to that high place.
Look, I know how to get to the high place. I can literally get on a plane, go to a mountain, and I'll be high,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
But it's for me, it's a, what is it? How do I say this? It's an escape to do that. So what I've tried to do lately is get that high without going to the mountaintop,
Yes.
right? By just being here, by being here with you right now. I
Yeah.
remember a wise man once said to me, is one of the tricks of life is to feel that highness, right? Whatever you want to call it, in your everyday life.
Mm.
You don't need to get on a plane and to seek that high when it's right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, interesting you say that because I've been one of, doing some adventures in life, just to find that next level, just to find that high. But to find the beauty in life as it is right now is quite tricky. Are there any particular tools or things that you go to help find the bliss in the moment of life day to day?
Look, it helps me personally, situationally. What do I mean by that? I happen to live in an area in LA that's very, very beautiful. So every day I get to wake up and I see the beauty right outside my window,
Yep.
exactly the same as if I was seeing it in the mountains of the Himalayas. Nature. I keep going on about nature, but nature is a way to connect. Go to the park, connect to nature because you can connect to nature anywhere, wherever you are, whatever city you are in, there's still areas of nature Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I have used on my travels and I use at home as well, I'd like to call it a meditation. Basically, I find a song, and I've shared this many times, but I find a song,
Yeah.
touches my heart and touches my soul. And I listen to that song on repeat for however long it takes me to get into my body, to get grounded. And then I go from that place and start the day. And it's such a simple thing that anyone can do.
Yeah.
You find a song, you listen to it, you don't stop listening to it until you are in a place of groundedness and
Mm.
you live from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything like that that can help start your day off well, right?
Yes, yes.
Find that thing, and it might be a combination of things. I really believe that, a bit of exercise, a bit of meditation, a bit of gratitude journaling, things like that is always going to be a better day for me when I compared to when I don't do it. Right?
100%.
What did you find? Because you talk a lot about kindness, compassion, empathy, and obviously you've obviously got some experiences in doing that, right? What have you found in the world around those particular points and what we could be
Look,
doing better in the West, I guess?
so what I realized when I did all my adventures and all the other travels I've done is that ultimately, at the base of our humanity, we are the same. What do I mean by that? I mean, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to be loved, irrespective of how much money you have, irrespective of your religion, irrespective of which country you may live in or may not live in. And I learned this lesson profoundly one day when I was in India. I was in the slums. I stayed there a couple of nights during my trip around the world. And if you've been to the slums, there's a lot of poverty. So on the outside you'd be like, oh, this is not a great place. But on the inside, there's so much love. And I made some really lifelong friends. If you've seen the show The Kindness Diaries, you remember Deeru,
Mm,
the rickshaw driver, who's my friend from over a decade. And I woke up that morning and I saw this mother kiss her two kids goodbye for school. And in that moment, I realized that her love for her kids is exactly the same as our love for our kids. And it was obviously a simple thing to feel and think, but it's also profound. We are the same. We are the same. And when people start telling us that we're different, I think that's a lie.
yeah. So essentially, yeah, we're all the same, and we all desire the same things in life, not materialistic things, but the idea of being seen, heard, and loved.
Yes. And the secret sauce to kindness. First of all, let me say what my definition of kindness is, because
Mhm.
kindness is sometimes looked at negatively.
Mm,
Oh, if you're kind, you'll be weak. Okay, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. However, kindness to me is simply helping someone feel less alone. And I would go so far as to say that every single person that's listening to this podcast has felt alone at some point in their lives.
yeah.
And it is someone's kindness that has helped them feel less alone. And that is a really powerful thing. So the secret sauce to kindness for me is simply one word, and that is empathy. When you have empathy for another person's pain, and no one does it perfectly, I certainly don't do it perfectly. But when we have empathy for another person's pain, it changes the way we see them and it changes the way that we react to them.
Mm.
When we don't have empathy, very, very bad things happen. Very bad things. I
What do you
have
mean?
on a societal level. What I mean is that I've traveled the world. I've seen many good things, and I've seen many bad things. I've been to the killing fields in Cambodia.
Mm.
I have been to Auschwitz in Poland. How did Auschwitz happen? Partially because of a complete and utter lack of empathy.
Hmm.
And when we have a lack of empathy, terrible things happen.
Hmm. Do you feel that there's a lacking of empathy in the world today? And is
Obviously, there is
is
definitely a
it
lack of
changing? Is
empathy.
it getting better?
I mean, you would imagine if you turn on the news for a long period of time, I didn't turn on the news, but when you look at the news, you see a complete lack of empathy all over, right?
Yeah.
But the news sometimes, not sometimes, pretty much all the time, focuses entirely on the bad,
Yeah.
right? So we see the bad things that are happening, lack of empathy left, right, and center, and we can become depressed by what we see and lose hope. But the reality is that the majority of people I meet in the street or wherever I'm meeting them, they do have empathy. There is a goodness that flows through each and every one of us.
Hmm.
And we get to choose whether we want to jump into the river of goodness or jump into the river of hate. And that's a personal choice.
Yeah.
And you get to choose exactly the same way I get to choose. I get to choose every day, even on the smallest of things. I could be at Starbucks, right? And someone can give me the wrong drink. And my first reaction inside is like, they have given me the wrong drink. How dare they? Did they not listen to me? And my second reaction is, chill out. You're supposed to be the kindness guy. You just came from a speech talking about kindness. React with some calmness and some humility and some grace. They made a mistake. That's a choice. I get to choose exactly like you get to choose.
Hmm. Hmm. In your experiences traveling and using kindness to get your way around the world, what were the, I guess, moments where kindness didn't work? Or were there, yeah, that makes sense.
Look, look, in the trips around the world, I would say that I would go up to 10 people and only one of them would offer to let me stay in their house. The remaining nine would say no. Some of them maybe because they, didn't have a house. Some of them because they were in a bad mood. Some of them because they were fearful. I don't know why, right? Some of them because they were unkind. But as long as you can find one human being to open up their heart to you and to witness you, then there's hope,
Hmm.
right? So I'm not suggesting here that everyone out there is kind. That's just clearly not true. And I'm also not suggesting that if you live with your heart wide open, that you shouldn't have boundaries, that you shouldn't have a boundary in place that says, I'm going to be kind, but if you cross my boundary and treat me with disrespect, there will be consequences for you,
Hmm.
right? This isn't a kumbaya moment, right?
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
can be moments of kumbaya, great, perfect, but we don't live in that type of world. So lead with love, lead with your heart wide open, but have a boundary. Sometimes people say to me, oh, I can't be kind. And I tell them the story of Muhammad Ali, a man of love, a man of service, a kind man, not perfect. No one is. How many of us would mess with Muhammad Ali? Pretty much
Hmm.
no one.
Hmm.
And that's proof that kindness is in fact your greatest strength.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is in fact your greatest strength, whilst having a lightsaber in your back pocket, right?
Yeah. 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 I guess you could see kindness as like a weakness, like it could open you up to being more vulnerable to the world if you didn't have those boundaries or that lifesaver in your back pocket.
Yes. Now, Yoda. Yoda was a pretty kind, I don't know if he was a man, he wasn't a man, whatever he was, I can't remember, right? But Yoda was a kind soul. But I don't think you want to mess with Yoda. I
No,
certainly am not going to mess with Yoda,
no,
right?
I don't see that guy fight. Um, Kindness, interesting. So empathy, how would we encourage or how could we encourage ourselves, but encourage others too, to become more empathetic?
So if you invited me onto your podcast, and of course I would never do this, but if I was very unpleasant to you,
Hmm.
mean and rude and just an arrogant individual, I would imagine you wouldn't feel very good about yourself, right?
No.
You'd be pissed off at me as well, but you wouldn't feel good if I was attacking you.
Hmm.
On the other hand, if I come onto your podcast and we have a great connection and there's a beautiful conversation and I'm kind and I'm honest, and I'm authentic, you're going to leave the conversation feeling good. So you know how it feels when someone is unkind to you.
Yeah.
And you also know how it feels when someone is kind to you.
Hmm.
So that is literally the essence of empathy.
Right.
So therefore, treat others exactly how you would like to be treated. And
Hmm.
of course, again, that's a simplistic way of putting it, but it's also the truth.
So maybe going out there and, well, just practicing kindness to then have
Yes.
that experience, which will raise your level of awareness about empathy and allow you to be more kind going forward. And
Yes.
in
And
those
also,
moments, like you at Starbucks, right?
yes. And also know that kindness is a win-win.
Yeah.
If I'm kind to you, I win. I win. Do you think
Mm.
Mother Teresa didn't win by being kind? Or the Dalai Lama doesn't win by being kind? Of course he does. Of course she did. So it's a win-win. I win by being kind to you, and you win by me being kind to you too. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Did you see a change from your previous life to this new life of kindness and empathy, or was that just always in you, this level of kindness, and just
Look,
not tapped into?
again, and I say this often, the version of me that you have on your podcast is the best version of me,
Yeah.
right? The version of me that would not be the best version of me, you would be like, why on earth am I interviewing this man? Right? So there's no perfection. Prior to going on these journeys, of course, I was less kind. I mean, I just was. And as I go on these journeys, as I meet these people, as I have these experiences, and as I put myself in the public eye as the kindness guy, sometimes yeah, I'm human. Sometimes I'll be mean. I'll be like, oh no, did anyone see the kindness guy be mean? Right? Okay. So I've put myself in this box where I force myself to show up the best version of myself. And
Hmm.
that's great. It's
Hmm.
always, I love it because I've purposely pressurized myself to be better.
Yeah, well, and that shows through practice, right? Like you're the kindness guy, so you got to do that. Was there a part in you that saw a lacking of kindness in the world that made you want to go on this mission before that? Like, is it something, a part of you that you didn't see or gel well with as far as kindness was concerned, or something bigger picture kindness related?
It's a great question. And the answer to that is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
So, as a kid, when I grew up, I felt a total lack of kindness on many different levels.
Hmm.
And I had this one teacher who would knew what was going on at school, and she was very, very kind. Every day she would look at me and she'd say, "I believe in you," and she would do this for years. And I had the experience of kindness, and I had the experience of unkindness, and I knew which one I wanted to be. I wanted to receive kindness, and I wanted to give kindness, and I never understood. Like I remember as a kid, some of the meanest people were adults. I was like, as a kid, I was like, well, like, what is, I didn't say it out loud, but I was like, what is wrong with you? You're an adult. I'm a child, and you are being a total asshole. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I never wanted to do that to others to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And it's why, like with kids, I get on with kids because I see them. I am just a big kid. We are
Hmm.
all just big kids, but most of us have lost the ability to connect with that part of us.
Hmm.
Like with kids, if you literally just approach them from that space of being a kid too, then magic happens.
Yeah. It's a really good point, and it's come up in the past in this show. But I think it's something that we can definitely connect with. Leon, fantastic conversation. Love your work. Um, you've got millions of things going on right now, but how can people best connect with you?
So the best way to connect is my new movie, The Kindness Within, A Journey to Freedom, which is on Amazon Prime as we speak. It's actually in Australia and many other countries.
Yep.
And that's about my journey around India to find the meaning of life. And you can also contact me at The Kindness Guy on Instagram, and I respond to all messages.
Kindness Guy on Instagram. I actually saw the kindness within. There is a link on his website there. So I'll stick all the links in the show notes anyway for everyone listening. So check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. But Leon, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No
Been a
worries.
pleasure.
Thanks so much.
You've inspired us. Guys, check it out, thehiddenwhy.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon.